President, please be seated. The chamber is now back in session. The chamber would like to inform the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyer for civil party that your combined time is 20 minutes left. And now the floor is given to the co-prosecutors.
Hello, Mr. Witness, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sir, we talked this morning about how you had come across a funeral and persons burning incense, and you told them it was okay, but if anyone found out, you could all get killed. Why was it that people could get killed for burning incense during the regime?
I do not know, but I felt concerned because they did not believe in a ceremony at that time.
When you say they did not believe in ceremony, can you explain what was the policies you were instructed on regarding Buddhism? What did your superiors tell you about the practice of religion?
Because I did not see the pagodas, so I felt that they did not believe in a religion anymore.
Well, sir, as a former monk, you must have been interested in that subject. In your heart, did you remain a Buddhist?
Yes, I have always believed in the religion.
But during the regime, is it correct you didn't practice your religion, or if you did, you kept it hidden? Is that correct?
Under that circumstances, I thought it was right to hide it.
Why is that? What did you think? Why did you think that it would be dangerous to admit or to let people know you were practicing?
As I told you earlier, I felt concerned. If we conducted without any permission,
Sir, how did you learn about the policies? Did you read some books or newspapers or instructions? Did you attend meetings? How did you know what was allowed and not allowed during the regime?
Related to this question, I feel that it's difficult to give the answer because I think the answer is beyond my knowledge.
Sir, did you meet Nunchea, Pol Pot, Q Sampan during the regime?
I never met them personally.
And yet, in Tet Sambat's book that I quoted, it talks about you quoting from Pol Pot. You said Pol Pot asked where people were going who were going to be executed. And in the audio tape I played of your interview, you talked about attending meetings with Nun Chea. Is it still your position now in court under oath that you never met any, never saw any of these leaders?
I cannot recall everything because it happened a long time ago.
Sir, my colleague has some questions for you. I'm out of time. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to say good afternoon to the chamber and to the bench. My name is Sieng Leng, the National Correction Sieng Liang, the Deputy National Co-Prosecutor. Today I have a number of questions to put to the witness, and I would like the witness to clarify to the chamber. I am interested in a time when you were transferred to Barai district. Can you tell us again about when you were transferred to work in Barai district? Answer. I can remember some of the time. It was in August in 1978. Question. When you arrived in Barai district, were you aware of the dam building or dike digging? Answer. Yes, I was aware of it because when I arrived there, I saw the digging of canal. And it was nearly completed. It was about 80% accomplished. Question, could you elaborate more about this? Answer. I myself went to dig and carry earth at a place called Phnom Kapai. Question. When did you go to the Phnom Kapai work site? And what did you do there? And what were the people there doing? Answer. I participated in digging with the people there. I also carried earth with them because it was an intensified plan to finish it, and that was why I participated in that project so that we could have water to be used. Question. So could you tell us how long did you spend there? Answer. I went there once every day, and I carried earth 4 or 5 times. And besides that, I went to the paddy fields. Question. You told us that you went there every day. Is that correct? Answer. Yes, that's correct. Question. So at the Phnom Kapai work site, was there any inauguration of the opening of the work site? Answer. No, there was no inauguration of the launching of the work site, but they require us to make sure that we complete it within 1 or 2 months. Question: were there any leaders from the center or from the zone who came to inspect the work site? Answer: yes, there were people from the sectors, and also occasionally there were visits from people from the center, from the zone. Question: was that work site belong to the sector or the zone? Answer: it belonged to the sector. Question: who supervised the work site? Answer: it was the sector. The work site continued from 1st January dam. Question: so you mean that the sector controlled the work site? So if the sector controlled the zone, correction, if the sector controlled the work site, what about the zone? Answer: the sector controlled the zone, but the district and the zone also involved in the project. Question: can you tell us about the names of the person in charge of the work site and the zone? Answer: the name of the person in charge of the zone was Kao Pok. And Phước was in charge of the sector. Question: how many people were involved in the building that work site? Answer: approximately there were 300 people, because it was not a big area. Question: can you tell us again whether it was 300 or more than that? Answer: because the project was nearly completed when I arrived. Question: Mr. Witness, there was a document based on your interview with DC Cam. It's E3 9149. EON in English 01116150. In Khmer 007312493294. French 011010342235. In the document you said, the question posed to you was, did you went to the work site? Answer: yeah, I went to Kampoi work site. There were tens of thousands of mobile unit personnel involved in the project. And when I saw the children of other people, I felt sympathetic toward them, and I said that I would let them to visit home every 10 days. Free translation. So what is your opinion or response to the answer you gave to the DCCAM interview? Answer: initially there were many people involved in the project, but later on there were less and less, and there were only around 300. And I told them that I would let them to visit their home, their parents, because I felt sympathetic toward them, because I myself had that experience. My own niece and nephews were also sent to the work site, so I understood the situation. Co-prosecutor, thank you. Could you please give your answer short and precise? A while ago, you mentioned that initially there were many people involved in the project. So could you tell us how many of them, when you mean that many of them involved in the project? Answer: when I said many, I referred to about 5,000 or 6,000 people. Question: can that number reach tens of thousands of people? Answer: yeah, based on my estimation, it can reach tens of thousands of people at the initial stage. President, I would like to ask the lead co-lawyer for civil party whether you have questions for the witness. Lawyer: I do not have any question to put to this witness, so I give my time segment to the co-prosecutor. President, thank you, lawyer. And now the co-prosecutor, you can continue. Co-prosecutor, how many time left for me? Answer from the President: 10 minutes left. Co-prosecutor: thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, a while ago, you based on the document that I referred to, you mentioned that there were tens of thousands of people who participated in the project. But you said a while ago. So what do you actually mean by this? Answer: I mean that when the project was still small, when it was just started for about 1 or 2 months. Question: at the Kampoi work site, did you issue any particular plan to be implemented by your subordinates? Answer: we issued the implementation of the plan based on months, 2 months or 3 months plan. Question: did you order the enforcement of particular order? For example, each person had to accomplish a particular amount of work per day. Answer: each cooperative had to follow the order from the upper level that they had to accomplish within 3 months. So each group and unit had to follow the order which were assigned to them for particular amount of work that they had to accomplish. Question: so after the units or cooperative finished their work, they reported to you or someone else? Answer: after we reviewed their work, they reported to me, and then I reported further to the upper level. Question: were there any units or group which could not accomplish the assigned work? Answer: no, there weren't. Question: in the dam building, did you give any equipments to those cooperative, whether they build it with the machine or manually? Answer: they build the dam manually, and they also use the explosion powder to explode the rock. Question: during the working, was there any point of time when the worker were required to work at night time? Answer: no, there weren't. Question: what about the accommodations of workers? Answer. They stayed in tents or in a makeshift cottage based at the work site. Question. Were there enough accommodation to accommodate all the workers? Were there any individual workers who did not have accommodation? Answer. Yes, there were a makeshift cottage for them, but I can say that there were not 100% sufficient accommodation for all the workers. Question. Were there any children or women who also worked at the work site? Answer. Yes, there were youths and women from the mobile units. President, your time has run out, co-prosecutor. Co-prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. I have one question left. Mr. Witness, can you tell us when the construction of the worksite completed and who presided over the completion of the worksite? Answer. It was completed later on, but the ceremony to close it took place earlier. Question. Can you tell us who presided over the closing ceremony of the work site? Answer. It was from the zone level. Question. Are you referring to Kai Pok? Answer. Yes, Kai Pok. President, thank you, co-prosecutor. And now I give the floor to the defense counsel for Nuon Chea.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, parties, and good afternoon to you, Mr. Witness. I will be asking you some questions on behalf of Mr. Nuon Chea. To explain to you in advance, I intend to be revisiting a lot of what you had discussed with the international prosecutor this morning, but I'll be doing so from a different angle. So to begin, I want to refer you back to the last questions the prosecutor asked you before the lunch break. As you might recall, he asked you about whether you were ever required to investigate people and what the policy on enemies was. So by way of explanation, my first questions relate to this general context. Now, what I want to do is to begin by reading you something that you said in your statement to DCCAM. And again, this is something that you've discussed a lot with the prosecutor this morning. Mr. President, this is document E3/9149 from the 19th of June 2008. The ERNs I will be reading from for this quote are, in English, 01116147. In Khmer, 0073124425, and in French, 01101031. Mr. Witness, this is the quote that I want to read to you. Quote, "To be honest, I did not report or point out about the background of any individuals. This was not my stance. As I told you, I was also an outsider who came from a distant place." And then a little later, you go on to say, quote, "I did not know the history of the people or their relatives in the village. So I informed my deputy secretary and all the members that the upper echelon assigned me to keep an eye on those whose activities were against the party at that time." Unquote. And here is the question, Mr. Witness. My understanding of your statement is that you did not report individual backgrounds, but were focused instead on keeping an eye on activities against the party. My question is my understanding correct?
In my opinion, that is correct. Because I did not know those people, as I told the chamber this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. And I should have said this earlier, but this quote, when you were saying this to DCCAM, you were speaking about your time in Baray District. So that's just for background for you. My next question is, do you know whether any other district secretaries or other cadres in authority positions also took a similar approach to you, focusing, that is, on activities rather than individual backgrounds?
I did not have full grasp of this aspect.
That's not a problem, Mr. Witness. Let's talk a little bit more, though, about this idea of activities, because this is something that you elaborated on in some of your previous written statements. So first of all, according to your understanding, what kind of activities would be considered activities against the party?
Activities considered opposing the party at that time were, for example, those who burn rice or poison people by putting the poisonous substance into the collective rice cooker.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. That actually nicely relates to the next thing that I wanted to discuss with you. You spoke about similar activities in your written record of interview to the investigating judges of this court on the 14th of July 2009. So although you've just discussed that now, I will go over what it is that you said to the investigating judges because you added a little more detail there. Mr. President, this is document E3/5293. As I said, it's a WRI from the investigating judges, and the ERNs that I will be referring to are, in English, 0035170526, in Khmer, 00348845, and in French, 00367752. Mr. Witness, this is what the discussion was with the investigating judges. The question, quote, was it the role of a cooperative to report about the issue of security to the upper echelon? Answer, yes it was. For example, regarding the poisoning in the food. And a little later, the investigation continues, quote, question, did anyone violate the policy of the Ankar? Answer, no. However, there were light offenders, which included those who came to work late, and they were advised. They used the term self-criticism at that time. These misconducts were not reported to the district. And then a little further, the investigation continues. Question, quote, how serious was one's misconduct to have him or her brought to the district? Answer, major misconducts included burning paddy fields. Question, to where were those with serious misconduct taken? And your answer, they were taken to be re-educated for 2 or 3 days in a sub-district. End of quote. Mr. Witness, my understanding of your answers in that interview is that there were 2 kinds of offences and punishment. So let's talk first about offences. It seems you are describing light offences on the one hand and major misconduct on the other. Can you give a reaction to this and let me know if my understanding is correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now let's focus on the first type of offence I just described, which are the light offences that you spoke of. Do I also understand correctly that, according to your understanding, the punishment for light offences would be to do some self-criticism, but that these offences would not be reported to the district?
Yes, because the offenses were considered as misconduct that could be settled at the commune level.
Thank you. And still talking about light offences, is my understanding also correct that light offences would include, for example, activities like coming in late to work?
Yes, that is considered light offense.
Mr. Witness, can you give any other examples of activities that would be considered light offences?
As I stated in my previous statement, light offenses included coming late to work.
Okay, Mr. Witness, now I'll move on to the second type of offence you've described, which is what you called major misconduct. So first question, do I understand correctly that, according to you, the punishment for these offences would be being reported to the district in this case, and then eventually being re-educated for maybe 2 to 3 days in a sub-district?
Yes, that is the case.
Same sort of questions as last time. Is my understanding also correct that when it comes to offences of major misconduct, these types of offences included, as you said, poisoning food and burning paddy fields?
These offenses were determined that it were serious offenses. However, such offense never happened at my location.
I do understand that part, Mr. Witness, and we will get to that. Just one final question on these offences, even if they didn't occur in your area. Can you give me any other examples of other activities that would also have been considered major misconduct?
I cannot respond to your question regarding this matter.
No problem at all, Mr. Witness. I'm now going to read you another quote from your written record of interview so that we can discuss a little bit more some specific comments you made regarding food poisoning. Mr. President, this is once again the written record of interview with document number E3/5293, dated 14 July 2009. The ERNs that I'm going to be reading from are, in English, 00351705, in Khmer, 00348845, and in French, 00367752. Mr. Witness, this is the quote. Quote, and the question from the investigator is as follows. Was it the role of the cooperative to report about the issue of security to the upper echelon? Your answer, quote, yes it was, for example regarding the poisoning in the food. And then you say, as you just said now, as a matter of fact, there was no such case, but it was just a precaution. Question, was there ever an incident of poisoning in the food? Answer, no. It might happen in other sectors. The sector was the body that set out this plan. Mr. Witness, a few questions in reaction to this quote of yours. The first question is, do you agree with your prior statement that it was the sector that set out the plan about reporting security incidents to the upper echelon?
Yes, my previous statement is correct.
Do you also remember who it was in the sector that communicated this plan to you?
It was Eun, and I mentioned his name previously.
Now, I understand, Mr. Witness, that you said that this kind of incident of food poisoning, of burning paddy fields, did not happen in your area. Do you know, however, whether these kinds of incidents happened in other places, perhaps other districts, other sectors? Do you have any knowledge of this?
No, I did not. I did not know whether it happened in other sectors or areas.
No problem, Mr. Witness. Those are all the questions that I wanted to ask you about this issue of activities. And now I want to move on to another topic. Now, you'll recall from earlier today that the International Prosecutor has asked you several questions concerning the existence of an enemy policy. I would like to ask you about a meeting that you described in your written statements, but which has not yet been discussed today. Do you, Mr. Witness, recall attending a meeting at Barai District where your District Deputy Secretary announced what kinds of people would be considered as enemies?
No, I cannot recall that.
Mr. President, with your leave, I propose to read a section of the witness's DCCAM interview to try to refresh his memory. The document that I'll be reading from is, once again, E3/9149, the DCCAM interview, and the ERNs I will be reading from are, in English, 01116151, in Khmer, 00731250, and in French, 01101036. Mr. Witness, as I just explained, this will be an extract from your statement to the investigators from the Documentation Center of Cambodia. And here is the quote. Quote, my Deputy Secretary of Barai District made a public announcement that people who broke a plough, a harrow, or an ox cart would be considered as the enemies. Those who did not go to work were also considered the enemies. unquote. Mr. Witness, does this refresh your memory about a meeting at Barai district in which your district deputy secretary announced what kind of people would be considered to be enemies?
Yes, I recall that Tân was the deputy secretary of the district and who made that statement.
Mr. Witness, do you remember how you reacted to this announcement by your deputy district secretary?
After the announcement had been made, people were fearful, and later on I held a meeting to make announcement to the people.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Do you recall what your announcement was?
It was the same information as you read out. That is the information that we received from previous meeting regarding the breaking of a plough or harrow of an ox cart.
Mr. Witness, I'm not sure we're understanding each other fully. So to assist the process, I'm going to read to you again a little further from your DCCAM statement where you elaborated in some detail on what your announcement was. Mr. President, once again, this is E3/9149. The ERNs are the same as last time, but just for the reference, it is 01116151 in English, 00731250 in Khmer, and in French it is 01101036. Mr. Witness, this is what you told to DCCAM. Quote, I could not tolerate such an announcement, so I called all the people in the whole commune to a meeting. There were about 500 or 600 people who came to that meeting. I said that the reason people stole cassavas and rice was because they were poor and hungry. They were hungry because we could not produce enough food to feed them. It was not right to accuse people of being enemies because a plough was broken, unquote. Mr. Witness, does this refresh your memory about the announcement that you made at a subsequent meeting of the people?
Yes, that jogs my memory. I did attend that meeting with the people.
Mr. Witness, in the DCCAM statement, you say that not only did you attend such a meeting, but you were the one that made the announcement explaining that you could not tolerate the way that your Deputy District Secretary had defined enemies. Does that refresh your memory? Is that what happened?
As I've stated in my previous statement, I held a meeting to make such an announcement to the people.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I think we understand each other now. And after you made this announcement, were you punished?
No, I was not.
Do you know why not? Did somebody say something to you?
No. Nobody said anything to me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Witness. Further down in your DCCAM interview, you elaborate a little bit more about this meeting where you made this announcement to the people. So I would like to read you those details now and see how you can comment on those. Mr. President, again, this is E39149, and the ERNs are the same as last time, except for the Khmer, which is now 00731251. Mr. Witness, this is what you told DCCAM. Quote, and this is regarding this meeting at which you made the announcement. Quote, "This was my own initiative. He," and here I think you're referring to your district deputy secretary, "reported on me to the upper level. But he was not successful. My idea was in line with that of the zone and higher echelon. I took the upper echelon's position that wherever the livelihood of the people was better, he who was in charge of that place was doing a good job." Unquote. So, Mr. Witness, my question is as follows. You say that your idea was in line with the zone and the higher echelon, and then you talk about the upper echelon's position when it came to the livelihood of the people. What I would like to know is, can you tell us more about what your understanding of the upper echelon's position was?
I did not have a full knowledge about the position of the upper echelon.
Can you elaborate any more on the statement that you made earlier to DCCAM, where you described it as follows? Wherever the livelihood of the people was better, he who was in charge of that place was doing a good job. What do you mean by livelihood of the people?
Livelihood of the people refers to the food that they received.
And how did you know that this was the upper echelon's position?
President Witness, do you get a question? If so, please respond. Witness, I don't fully understand the question. However, I stand by my previous statement.
Okay, Mr. Witness. So my question was not about the upper echelon's position as such, but about how you knew of it. Was it because you heard it at a meeting? Did you read it in a document? Can you comment on this?
I learned of the position of the upper echelon through the announcement over the radio or through the messages delivered by the zone and the sector levels.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. When you talk about messages delivered from the zone and sector level, how were these messages delivered? Were they delivered in telegrams? Are you talking about meetings? Can you elaborate?
It was through meetings. That is, the meetings held at the sector level, or when the sector representative came to hold meetings at the district level.
And just one last question on this, and then we'll move on to the next line of questioning. when you talk about meetings at the sector level, can you tell me who attended those meetings?
In the meetings, there were representatives from the sector and the zone levels.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. So now I'm going to move on to my next line of questioning, and I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the upper echelon, but I'm going to be moving away from your experience in Baray district to focus on your earlier experience in Tangkok district. Now, Mr. Witness, earlier this afternoon, the international prosecutor referred to the fact that in Tet Sambat's book, Behind the Killing Fields, you spoke about a meeting with Pol Pot during the DK period. Now, I understand that you said that you do not recall that meeting, but I want to try to see if I can refresh your memory on that point by reading you the passage from the book, as the prosecutor was not unable to read it earlier. Mr. President, I will be referring here to the book Behind the Killing Fields, which was mentioned earlier today. The document number is E3/4202. It's a book by Gina Chon and Tet Sambat from 2010. And the ERNs I will be reading from are, in English, 00757529, in Khmer, 00858335, and in French, 00849432. Mr. Witness, this is what is recorded in the book by Chon and Sambat, according to an interview with you. Quote, during a visit by Pol Pot, Brother Number 1 saw dozens of people being transported in trucks to Kampong Cham province. They were headed to their execution. Pol Pot asked where the people were being taken and who had given the order to move them. You, it says your name here, but we're not going to say that in court. You said in an interview that you were surprised Pol Pot didn't know. He had assumed, you had assumed, that is, that Brother Number 1 had given the directive. Unquote. Mr. Witness, I hope you could follow that quote. My question here is now, what I'm interested in, Mr. Witness, is what you said about Pol Pot. And what I would like to know is it correct that, according to what you knew, Pol Pot did not seem to know where dozens of people were being taken and who had given the order to move them?
Can I respond to your question since I cannot recall the event?
No problem, Mr. Witness. I will move on to my next, and I think it's my last line of questions. So the questions now are going to be referring back to another issue that was discussed by the International Prosecutor this morning, namely the so-called purges of the North Zone. Mr. Witness, I would like to start by discussing with you part of your DCCAM interview, which the prosecutor has already discussed with you today, and he also played part of this interview to you in an audio clip. But bear with me. I would like to read you the quote again to refresh your memory, and I'll be asking you about different aspects of this quote. Mr. President, this is the DCCAM interview again. It is E3/9149. The ERNs I will be referring to in this case are, in English, 01116153, in Khmer, 00731253, and in French, the ERN is 01101039. Mr. Witness, here is the discussion that I will quote to you. Quote, the interviewer Longdani says, so when you were a district secretary, did the sector order you to remove anyone? And you answer, I argued with the old cadres in Baray district. They intimidated me in my district because there was no removal of the old cadres under my watch. The old cadres had to be removed, and they asked why I had not removed them. I asked them as to how I could remove them if they led the people and had never opposed us or had any conflicts. So I found no reason to remove them. I said that 3 or 5 times. Mr. Witness, and then you say a little later, quote, "There were orders from the upper echelon to arrest those who opposed us," unquote. Mr. Witness, the part of this comment of yours that I'm interested in is the very last part, when you say that there were orders from the upper echelon to arrest those who opposed us. In this regard, my first question is, do you remember how you received this order from the upper echelon to arrest those who opposed us? As before, for example, was it a meeting? Was it in a document you received? Can you comment?
Did not issue such order, and in fact the people from the sector came to the area by themselves. They asked me about the matter, and I said that I did not have a full grasp of the situation.
Mr. Witness, I understand that you did not issue the order. Do you know who issued the order then, since it was not you? Is it these people from the sector that came to the area that you're talking about, or is it someone else?
As I said, the sector came to the area by themselves.
And do you recall who from the sector came to the area?
As I stated earlier, it was Un.
And just for confirmation, Un is the sector secretary, is that correct?
Yes, Un was the sector secretary.
And do you recall how often he came to your area?
Once in a while he came to my area, and that happened every 20 days or a month.
And what did he do when he came to the area?
As I said earlier, when he came to the area, he questioned me. He met with the deputy secretary. He asked questions. He asked him questions as well.
And apart from these visits by the sector secretary Un to your area, did you also have communication with him when he was in another location? Did you, for example, did you communicate back and forth about what was happening in the area in between his visits of every 20 days?
No, that's not the case.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, my final questions relate to another part of the book, Behind the Killing Fields, that you discussed with the prosecutor earlier. And this is the part where you talk about receiving a list of more than 300 names. Now, I know that as you testified to the prosecutor, you do not remember receiving such a list. But what I would like to do is to read the quote back to you again to see if I can refresh your memory, as I would like to ask you different kinds of questions about this quote. Mr. President, this is the book Behind the Killing Fields Again by Chon and Samba from 2010. The document number is E3/4202, and the ERNs are, in English, 00757529, in Khmer, 00858335, and in French, 00849432. Mr. Witness, you've heard it before, but here is the quote again. Quote, in 1977, Cape Pau called him to a meeting, him is you in this case, I believe, and said that you had received instructions from top leaders to investigate their cadre to find bad components. A regional chief gave you a list of more than 300 names of people sent to your area from Phnom Penh. You spent 3 months investigating the names before you told the region chief that they had done nothing wrong. The region chief blamed you for finding no wrongdoing and accused you of hiding the traitors. Unquote. Mr. Witness, the part that I am interested in this quote is the second part of your statement, where you talk about receiving a list from a region chief, reporting to that region chief, and subsequently being blamed by that region chief. My first question is, do you remember the name of this region chief that you reported to?
It was the same person, that is Eun.
Did Eun tell you why you had to investigate the names on the list?
I did not have full knowledge about this matter.
Okay, Mr. Witness, let me try it a little bit differently. Did Eun tell you that you had to investigate the names because of an order? And if he did, can you tell me where the order came from, according to Eun?
I did not know, and Eun never showed me the list.
Okay, Mr. Witness. And in the quote that I read you, in the final part of it, you said that the region chief blamed you because you did not find any wrongdoing, and then you were subsequently accused by the region chief of hiding traitors. Now, when you say that the region chief Eun blamed you, can you tell me what happened to you? Were you punished in some way?
No, there was nothing happened.
And again, did anybody explain to you why? Why nothing happened to you?
Because I never received it and I never committed any wrongdoing that formed the basis of any possible arrest to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for your patience. Mr. President, I have no further questions.
President, it is now appropriate time for a break. The chamber will take a 20 minutes break from now.